So, Sanjay sir is kind enough to be here with all of us on a very last minute notice, right? He is actually traveling, and we have forced him. No, sir, we need you right now in this situation. So, please be here
Thank you
because
so
the
much.
situation is really tough, and we have never thought this social media will be a big deal, right? That big of a deal.
Yeah, correct. But like if you look at the current situation and what's happening in the US and across the world, I guess a lot of organizations, even if we talk about our own country, everyone is possibly scanning the social media and also looking at like what are our alliances, who are we following, what is the ideology, and that's the easiest way to find out a person's alliance with any organization which not be good for a particular country. However, you know the students, I guess, like most of the students in India, uh, we usually are on social media for fun, a lot of the time. But there are like a lot of students, those who are into their PhD, doing their research, looking at like comparative studies. They probably would have an alliance. Maybe they are more towards the left of the center. Sometimes, so they would also post certain details which could not be very very well taken by a particular government. You know. However, Manshi, I think that you and Zolve and we all collaboratively are trying to help students to figure out and navigate the current situation, which I believe is not that serious. We just have to look at the situation holistically and be very very patient. We don't have to stress out because what the announcement has come in is a very clear announcement that it's a pause. It's not a stop. It's not that it means they're now going to issue student visas, they'll stop student visas forever or maybe for a longer duration. We also have to understand there's a lot of mathematics, a lot of economics, a lot of finance which gets involved in processing a particular visa and admission. There are hundreds and thousands of students going across the globe, not a, leave alone India. So we have to think holistically and keep our patience, keep our stress levels down. It is just a matter of a few weeks, and I'm very sure that all the entire process would be revamped, and then they would start, releasing the visa appointments for freshers and anyone who already has a student visa appointment. Please don't stress. Go in for your visa interview. I had almost five students, those who went for the interviews yesterday, and I was lucky enough. All of them got their visas approved. So I'm really, really happy on that part. Right?
Definitely. Even we are seeing on our, we have a small WhatsApp group of all the students. They have been posting their visa interview experiences, and I have not seen a major, like, major concern with the current situation for the students whose visa interviews are coming up in the next month or something. So I think for the people whose slots are booked, they are they are like sorted. They should not take a lot of
Correct.
stress.
Correct. Okay, so if we break down the current situation is that the appointments for the time being has been paused. So what they possibly be doing, I can only guess from outside, is they're trying to figure out how to create their own system where they can actually scan the social media profiles of students coming in applying for a visa. So the name check process is already there. Anyone who applies for a visa, they have to go through a process, a security check, and everything, which is an internal thing, which is a good idea. And I guess everyone does that, right? So they're just extending the whole process by also introducing how to scrape through the social media, through what the student is saying, what are their alliances. So that's more or less a matter of, I guess, week and a half at the most, and then things will start becoming normal. All right. During this time, instead of getting stressed and looking at the social media, it is time for each student to reflect. Get your I-20, write to the university if you're waiting for the I-20s to come in. Once you get the I-20, make sure that your I-20 details are absolutely correct. Your name, your date of birth, your program name, your duration, the funds, everything is in place. At the same time, start filling your visa application form. Be ready for it because the system still working, right? So fill out your DS-160. Make sure that you provide information which is absolutely correct. You know, do not try and hide anything, or try and give information which is incorrect. Now is the time that you fill your visa application form, look at it carefully. You have the option to review it, and then finally submit your DS 160. And then, of course, create your profile, pay the visa application fees, and then very calmly just wait for the appointments to start getting released. And at the same time, Zolve has also introduced their system wherein you can, opt for the what do you call, the alerts,
Visa slot alerts.
right? The visa slot alerts. So that is also a brilliant thing. You can also follow that, and you'll get an alert as soon as the appointment gets open, and you can log in and check those appointments. So be rest assured. And then,
So just sir,
yeah,
one question. Like earlier, I think students were only mandated to add their LinkedIn profile in DS 160, right? So is the checking the vetting process going beyond LinkedIn? And I mean, going forward, would they ask them to add their Instagram, Facebook accounts as well?
okay. So Manchi and everyone else, the question on the DS 160 is mention your social media handles. You know, so a lot of students would limit that only to, let's say, LinkedIn, or earlier which was called Twitter, which is now X. However, so it did not mention just that you have to only mention LinkedIn. It says social media presence. So which meant Facebook, your Instagram, whatever social media you're on, everything should be mentioned. And earlier also students would mention that, but most of the time they would just limit that to LinkedIn. That was earlier. However, I would suggest and recommend that every student should mention all the social media handles they're on, right?
So
Okay,
one more
and at the
question,
same
one
time look
follow-up
at the
question on this. So, I was just speaking to a student before you joined, and I'm
yeah.
sure there are a lot of students like that. Even I am one of them, whose Instagram account is not with my name. So I just want to be cool and add, say, emergency bottle 123 as my Instagram handle. So should I mention that Instagram handle on my DS 160, or would they be able to track that this emergency bottle 123 is Manshi Gupta?
Okay, so good question, very good question. And
Yeah.
so if you look at the system, you know, and if you look at the way the technology is growing and moving, there's something called as facial recognition, right? Now, Manchi would remain Manchi. Manchi could have bottle wala, or bottle opener, but the face would remain the same, right?
But what if I don't post any pictures of myself? I
But
just post memes.
है ना? So that's a good thing. Now, if
Yeah.
you look at how the data works, how the data architecture works, how the artificial intelligence works, right? So I understand where it's coming from, right? And if it just means, then why not just mention it, right?
Yeah.
Unless
Correct.
you've something hiding, then there's a problem. Then the artificial intelligence will definitely look at the IP address, will look at the telephone number, may also check your email address, may also check how everything is interconnected. So that's what data is all about, right? That's
Correct. Correct.
how data architecture, that's how artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, everything is working. So the important thing is, if we are if we are not doing anything which is incorrect, there is no harm in mentioning it.
Correct.
Right?
Definitely.
It's as simple as that, right? So let's be overboard, and this is also a good idea when sometimes, so here when the parents come and says that hey kids, what are you using? What are you posting? Right? Now we don't only have parents who are controlling us; it's also the social media and the scraping which is going to go on. So
Hmm.
not only we have that, we got bigger dads as well now on the
And
lighter side.
the good part of it is that trolling would stop. That
Exactly.
these people who just put up random comments, they
Yeah,
would stop doing that.
exactly. Right. So you mentioned on your DS 160 should absolutely be correct, be in sync with what you're currently doing, your education. And like I said, this is the time for you all to reflect, look at the I-20, fill your DS 160 carefully, create your profile, pay the visa fees, pay the service fees, and then wait for the appointment. At the same time, now start preparing for your documents, right? Make sure that you have all the documents in order, create those sets, and then most importantly, start preparing for your visa interview, right? Understand your subject, look at your end goals, your professional objectives, Look at that and then start looking at the subjects, looking at the curriculum, looking at the university, and start connecting those dots to make a seamless progression for you from your academics to your professional goals, and how do you achieve that. So this is the time actually to stay calm and then start looking at those programs and start preparing for the interview, which is really important and crucial. Because what I see is, like, if you look at Canada, what has happened? So Canadian, they stopped issuing visas, and they had a lot of vetting inside and all of that. However, the US always invites students those who are bright and brilliant, right? Look at the choice of the universities that you applied to. Look at definitely the ranking of the university. Look at the program ranking. Look at the professors, the subjects, the teaching methodology, and of course the practical approach. Look at all of that and prepare accordingly. This is the time for you to actually sit down and prepare for your interviews, right, Mansi?
Correct, sir. Also, just asking all the possible questions on behalf of students, right?
Sure.
But you just mentioned that comments will be able to track. Instagram likes, if people say, suppose accidentally or willingly liked on a particular, say, political post. So will that also be tracked, and will it affect their visa
Okay.
approval chances?
Okay. All right. Now let's understand, like, there are different political ideologies, right? One could be a person who's looking at the center of the left, or maybe on the right. And if you're talking about, like, the governments in India, and if you are, in alliance with somebody, or I like the post of a particular politician or a political comment, that should not make any difference. It is not a national threat,
Correct.
right? So most of the time, when any government is looking at, they're looking at, like, not only so the ideology itself, if it's going towards a particular, what do you say, ideology which is absolutely against the government of the US, then of course there's an issue, right? Also, I was talking to a professor, and I was talking to a person in the US and a couple of attorneys over there. It's a good idea that the students are now coming online and talking about all of these. So when I also spoke about the facial recognition, right? Now, let's say there's a protest which is going on, and like Indians, we love to see what's happening. We would stop our cars, would stop our vehicles and see what's happening and peeping around. So if there is a protest in the US and somebody inquisitively goes and watches that, right? If that gets captured, right? And
Hmm.
when they start scanning it, the facial recognition would give out the name of the person or the student in a
Yeah.
particular. So this is again a good time for students to also realize to stay away from these kind of protests in the US, right? At the same time, maintain their student visa status, uh, be, study hard, maintain your grades, maintain your attendance, which is very important, and also stay away if it's not of your interest. So please don't get into that crowd, even if by mistake you're there. You know, the system would recognize you. The system doesn't know good, bad, nothing.
Yeah.
Your ideology. It'll just pick up your facial recognition and put it that he was a part of that group.
Sir, just my opinion, isn't it like too getting too strict? Like I can be there just out of curiosity that what is happening. I might not be involved. I might not have an opinion, but I'm just a curious person. I want to know what is happening,
Okay.
right? So
Now, so look, we all are adults. We all understand what's happening. If it's an accident, I understand. But if it's a protest, then I understand it's a protest, right?
correct.
Now, if it's a protest which interests me, then I'm better be a part of it. If it's not, then why should I get into it? You know,
Yeah.
Look, our main objective at this point of time is that parents are really working hard, students are working hard, right? They're putting in thousands and thousands of dollars. They want looking at their career. You know, I can understand there could be a innocent mistake,
Yeah.
right? That for that, I'm sure it is the student will not get penalized, right? Unless they see a pattern. I mean, I do understand that could be an inquisitive thing. There could be a little kid who's just 17 or 18 who's going to the US, right? And then seeing that, what's happening, let me just go and see, you know, that's fine. But then again, there has to be a pattern that they would possibly be looking at, right? One of I'm sure, like, it's not going to be that hard.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, sir, two more questions on behalf of students.
Sure.
First, so what are the cheat sheet to get away from this? Like, if I don't want to keep it at risk, what I'll do is I'll delete all my Instagram handles. I'll create a new one. I'll post a picture with my mummy and papa just to be on the safe side, right? And
Okay.
second question is, if I have already filled my DS 160 just with my LinkedIn ID, do I need to submit it again, mentioning all my social media handles?
Look, looking at the current situation, I would go with the latter part where, in case if I fill my DS 160 and I only just mention one, presence like a LinkedIn or X, right? However, now given the circumstances and the news that is coming in, it is very important that student must go ahead and fill a new DS 160 and provide all the details
Okay.
and carry both the DS 160 for sure. For
Hmm.
sure. It is going to be a good idea. I recently had one student who had his interview yesterday and he was in a similar situation. So I suggested, like, at this point of time, let's not take chances.
So even for the students whose visa slots are booked, they also are, you recommend that it will be a good point if they do that.
I would highly recommend, yes.
Yeah.
It's a good idea because, I don't want to be caught off-handed standing at the embassy and the officer says, hey, you did not mention two of your social media presence. What are you hiding?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Why
Now the
take
officer,
risks?
why take risk? I mean,
Yeah.
we've already put in, invested so much, you know,
Hmm.
physically, mentally, monetarily, and by not mentioning it. And like I said, there's nothing to be scared of. We have social media presence, right? We are
Correct.
currently on social media. We
Yeah.
are posting, these comments, correct? Now, we are not saying anything against anyone, or my ideology does not meet somebody who's, looking at some kind of a group which is against. So, social media presence is fine. You could have your political ideas. You could be supporting one party, the other party. That's fine. You know, you could be creating memes, or you could be lighting somebody, like, let's say the president of X uh, has a meme and I'm liking it. That's all fine. That's
Yeah.
all within the parameters. That's okay.
Hmm. Unless you have a really harsh point of view and you're only doing political commentary and sharing your opinion, I think that would be a problem if it's getting too extreme.
Right. If it's your hardliner, if you
Yeah.
become a threat, you
Yeah.
know, to a country, then yes, that's fine. And, like, I mean, if you talk about US, if you talk about India, if you talk about the world, there is comparative, studies. There is history. There is political science. There is comparative political analysis.
Hmm.
All that is fine. You know, I could have a different view on a particular subject, or, as long as it does not become a national threat,
Correct, correct, correct.
then it's fine. Now, go ahead.
Sir, what about students whose say Instagram IDs are private?
Okay.
Will private IDs will also get scanned the same
Look,
way?
if you talk about technology, the
Yeah.
technology can scan anything. Whether you
True.
keep it private, extra private makes no difference. So if they want to
Correct.
scan, okay. The other thing is,
Hmm.
let's say somebody had an account, he deletes it.
Hmm.
Does that mean it actually gets deleted? No, it doesn't.
It will be archived.
It is archived. You know, if somebody wants, if the government wants to, unlock it, they can,
Definitely.
right? Okay. So here we're talking about something which is very extreme. You know. So once
Hmm.
again, I don't think so. Students should get into a panic mode, right? They should not,
Hmm.
because, like I said, most of the kids that I meet, during the conversations, during my counseling, none of them are hardliners. You know, they're online, they're on Instagram for fun. That's
Yeah.
fine. Most of them, I would say 99.9%, unless somebody's
And what
studying.
about people who have, say, multiple accounts? One I want to keep for my parents, one I want to keep for posting shit memes. So should I mention all those accounts or should I just mention my personal account with
Well,
my parents' picture on it?
I understand. I understand. Like, I mean, the youngsters and all, they would have probably a private one where they want to see, what they want to see. Like I said. as long as it's not something which is affecting or derogatory in the sense of hardliners, uh, you could hide that one. You know, I mean, still, if the government wants to see, they can see it. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
but then if they see it and they see, oh, that's private, then it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
If it's private, if it's not hidden, if it's not mentioned, though he's mentioned all of those, and that is like a hardliner, then there's an issue,
Mm-hmm.
right? So what I'm saying is, let's say a person has one where he's a saint, and the other one is like the one that he has his own fantasies. Okay, so you don't need to put those fantasies. You could put these ones though, but do mention as you are on the social media.
Mm-hmm.
Try and mention as many and try and stay clean. Like I said, it's not only mom and dad who's going to watch you. It's going to be like big dad is going to watch you now.
Correct, correct. All right. Guys, if you have any other confusions, anything you want
On
to
this
ask,
part.
and just have on the social media front, on the social media vetting part, just put it in the comments. Uh, okay, what about people who have never used any social media other than LinkedIn for the past 4, 5 years?
Okay, so that's also a very good question. Not because they're not on Instagram, they have to go and create one. No, they don't have to.
Yeah,
If they're not, so they're not.
true,
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
Correct. What about deleted comments? I don't think that should be a problem.
Again,
Yeah. I think we
yeah,
are taking it too seriously. I mean,
yeah,
we should take it
definitely.
seriously, but not take it too seriously also.
Not take it too seriously. Like I said, and also look at if you go and read those articles,
Hmm.
don't just read today's article. you know Today's article is a follow up of the old article and then the older one. If you
Hmm.
if you look at the chain where it started from, right, and then why are they doing it, it'll be clear. So don't just read today's article. Go back into the history and look where it started from. What was the first article, then the second article, the third and the fourth, and the today's article. So you'll
Yeah,
see a clear pattern. What are they looking at?
correct, correct. I just came across this article in one of the community groups that US government is now ready to, release more slots.
Okay?
I am not sure it was random. It has come from an authentic source. I'm not sure, but I have also seen that a lot of these fake newses are coming up. And yesterday only some students were discussing, oh, my algorithm is now filled with videos like this. Ki this will happen, that will happen. So people are also creating content about this to get views because they know whether they'll talk shit or they'll share clear information, people will watch it.
What you're saying is absolutely right.
Yeah.
And sometimes it surprises me that there is a random person who comes out and talks about the US visas, the policies, and then, of course, what's happening around.
Hmm.
And and also, like, it also surprises me that, our views are not going up, but those views have gone like, into
Definitely.
into
Definitely.
lakhs,
Yeah.
but that's okay. I mean, that's his way of presenting himself. That's his point of view, right?
Hmm.
However, what you've got in a very good point and a very relevant point, Manchi,
Yeah.
that a lot of people are coming online and they're posting a lot of things which are not very positive, right? They are also giving news which are not, you know, authentic. It doesn't make sense. But the most important thing is that all students, you, me, we should always go to the source. The source here is the US Embassy, right?
Hmm.
So
Correct.
please go onto their website, please go onto their social media handle like their Instagram, and keep reading what are they posting, you know,
So, would you
and then
mind mentioning the exact website?
yeah, sure, some
Are you okay? Is there a problem,
yeah,
sir?
that's okay, that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So yeah, this the US Embassy, New Delhi is the handle, right? Where you can actually go and look at, or the US Embassy, that would really work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it. So, I think there's a very relevant question. I would like to read it out. So, Mohan is saying, I have a training company and it has social media accounts like Facebook, Insta, etc. Whenever I start new batches for my course, I make the post in my personal Facebook and company related social media account. So, whether I have to write company related social media accounts like their handles in DS160? Because in their handles, his videos are getting posted.
Uh, yeah, because it is related to him, so he should mention that for sure. He should, because that is relevant for sure, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
For
Uh,
example, like if I do apply for a visa, I have to not only mention my own handles, I also have to mention my corporate handles as well.
hmm, correct, correct. So there's a very interesting question. Some Saransh is asking, will will they also, sorry, Riddhi is asking, will they also scan our Google search history through email address?
uh Look, so one thing leads to another.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, so for example, if they find something which is negative on one of the posts, or which is absolutely derogative, so they may look first, scan that particular uh, handle, and if
Hmm.
they want to move further, then they can go. Otherwise, why would they do it? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
please understand, there are close to about 7 to 800 people applying for visas on a given day, right? They will not be searching everything, then going into Google search, and then also going into X search. No, like I said, one leads to another, right? If they find something which is absolutely derogatory, or which is, you know, against in the hardliner, first they want to see that, and then move
Hmm.
on to the next one, and then move on to the next one, and then go to the extreme.
Correct, correct, correct. All right, sir. I think that's it. Thank you for sharing all the information. I think it was much needed. And thank you
Right.
so much for stopping in between and taking the session
I
and
know.
doing this very last minute.
No, no,
Right.
thank you very much, and I guess it was much needed.
It,
And
it,
I was middle of traveling, but thank you very much, and thank you everyone for attending this. I'm sure that this going to ease out. Take it easy. Do not worry. It's just a pause, and I'm sure the pause would get released very soon. All the very best. Thank you,
uh,
Mansi. I'll
just
take you
last
away.
comment, sir. Anything you want to suggest when the fresh slot will open and when the refusal slot will open? Any random guess on that?
In the next week sometime.
You're not audible, sir.
Next week sometime.
Next week, the fresh
Yeah,
slot will keep opening, right?
time it will start opening.
Okay. What about the refusal slot? Will they open by at least end of June?
End of June. End of
Cool, cool, cool.
June.
Thank you. Thank you so much again, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.